enough likes or comments, a lot of engagement.
Huh? It's, huh? What's this? What's that? It's begun. We've begun. We had like a good momentum going for a second there, conversationally. I feel like I wanted to just sort of capture it.
I was still doing my vocal warm-ups.
Yeah, and you were doing the unique New York thing.
Flirting.
And we're all
practicing my Spanish accent.
You had a flub.
Thresholds.
You said a TH instead of an S, and we all laughed at you, and it was really funny. How's it going, Lyndon? It says there's a weird setup. You're like to my left a little more than you usually are, so I have to I'm gonna have to do a lot more like head movement, whole full body movement.
Well, thank goodness you have a swivel chair.
But I was gonna say that's what the swivel chair is for. That's what it was purchased for. We had a budget for a swivel chair, and that's what it was for.
Yeah.
Look who's back. Look who's
back. It's me.
Look who's back again. It's Lyndon.
Barely able to speak with my busted lip.
So, yeah, I'm looking at it. I can't stop looking at it. I never noticed your ample lip before. Look at those lips.
Well, there's a big old raspberry hanging off of it.
Yeah, so when is that going away?
Well, it's got this. I like poking it.
You like to poke it.
Yeah.
He's poking it. You won't stop poking.
I am scheduled to see the doctor on Thursday to get the stitches taken out. So I assume he's going to have to plow through all the scabs to get to the stitches.
Well, it's a good thing we have a doctor on the show here today.
Doctor-ish.
Doctor, good enough to be a doctor.
Good enough to trust.
You can take my stitches out any day.
We have a guest.
Not any day. Not too soon.
Today? We can take them out today.
Not today.
Just need some scissors.
Be a little early.
We have a guest on the show. His name is Bryce Hardy.
Hey, friends. How's it going?
It's going good, man. You're a real get, I feel. You're like such a... So I had a thought today of like a question I wanted to pose, or maybe even like do a whole show about this, but maybe not today, but maybe some of it we can do today. Or maybe we can just ask our guests whenever they come on. But I was like, you know what? Bryce would be a good person to ask this question to. And I'm going to save the question. I'm going to keep everybody in high suspense here for a little bit.
It's working on me.
Should I just say the question? I just want to say it.
Okay.
No, I'm going to save it.
Okay.
So we got Bryce here today, but I want to talk to Lynn a little bit more here. I'd like, cause so here's what happened. We were going to have Bryce on the pod days ago, and then the day of, I get a text from you, Lyndon, saying that you're in a hospital.
Urgent care.
That your face is just mangled.
Yeah,
beyond repair.
I've gotten some feedback from people regarding your retelling of the incident,
which was spot on.
There were some complaints. Some people thought it was funny because they knew you weren't there.
Right.
Some people were like, they like listed out every inaccuracy in your story. And I was like, correct, that none of that is true.
Yeah.
It was hilariously inaccurate.
Right. So they kind of missed the point, maybe.
Well,
of what I was.
They just want to make sure that we're not getting caught with our pants down.
Well, notice I'd never actually said the name of the person other than you. Well, I said Voldemort, but Voldemort's not real. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Isn't that the biggest spoiler of all? Harry Potter isn't real.
That's what the Muggles want you to think, though.
Oh, are you a Muggler?
Muggle, I am. By definition, I mean.
Is that a follower of Harry Potter? A disciple of Potter.
Isn't like a Potterhead? Isn't that like an actual?
Is that what it is? Have you done your? Do you know what house you're in?
I actually have, and I'm in Hufflepuff, and I'm not too happy about it.
That's
honestly.
so embarrassing.
You should be ashamed.
That's so embarrassing. That's the most embarrassing house to be a part of.
Any other one, and it's fine. Like if
I'm
you're
Ravenclaw.
You're smart.
Yeah, I'm
right?
Ravenclaw.
Gryffindor, you're courageous.
Yeah.
Slytherin, you're just like some cool evil. But like Hufflepuff, like the name itself.
You're
just
a freaking nerd.
Yeah.
You're a freaking goober snack. Which one are you? You got to be Slytherin, bro. Lyndon, you got to be Slytherin. You got to be.
Ravenclaw.
Okay, we're both Ravenclaws.
Yeah.
So you've done it. You've done the thing. Or did
Oh,
you just decide off the top of your head?
I took a quiz.
Yeah. A girl made me take the quiz. She's married now. And you can speak on Mike if you want.
Well, no, yeah, same here. I was like, okay.
That's encouraged. You're just like signing everything to us. Bryce is furiously signing. We just have to translate.
I do know sign language, like
You do?
baby sign language.
Oh, you baby sign
My little
language.
sister was born. We watched like baby sign language videos all the time, so I learned like milk and more and stuff. You know,
What's milk?
uh,
Like you're milking
like you're literally milking
cow.
a cow. Yeah, it's
Wow.
How would babies understand that?
Like they know that frame of reference. Like you're teaching that to the baby. They're like, oh, like a cow. Yeah, yeah. And then they... What a vulgar thing. This isn't that kind of show, Bryce. Just kidding.
Yeah.
It is. So you're wearing a Wrangler shirt. I just noticed that. That's kind of cool, Lyndon.
Yeah, this is my new style, actually.
Cowboy.
I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube about hunting and gunsmithing. And they're all just like 60-year-old men that wear like fleece, flannel, canvas shirts.
Yeah.
Like double breast pocket canvas military cut shirts with
Yeah.
a collar. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be 60 one day.
You know, I'm rolling up on 60.
I should probably start dressing like that.
You should. Yeah, you know, I've been doing some hunting lately in Red Dead Redemption 2. Some hunting and skinning.
that.
It's a video game.
Very nice.
And I'm basically an outdoorsman now from the comfort of my couch. And I will give a review on my other podcast called Troy Reviews Video Games at a later date. Doesn't exist. Okay, moving on. So,
Do we get any emails? Are we going to do that?
no, we're out. We're
Fresh out.
We're fresh out of emails.
Shoot.
I do have some things I want to go over though, before we get to our. Actually, I don't know. Well, how long do we have you, Bryce?
You've got me for
An hour?
yeah,
One
about an hour.
full hour? Okay.
Probably good.
All
Well, I
right.
mean, good luck getting out of here.
good luck.
You're going to have to crawl over us.
I am
Nice
surrounded.
try.
For anyone listening, I am completely surrounded here.
We have blockaded Bryce in.
Got the
and,
guitars on one side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a window you could always jump out of, but good luck. That sidewalk comes pretty quick. Splat. We're one story up. You'd be fine.
You could easily scale down that.
Yeah, there's bushes at the bottom. You could always jump off there.
Yeah.
So no, we don't have any emails, but that's okay.
No, not like a flood of support worried about my poor lip.
No, nobody cares about that at all.
Shoot.
A weird amount of people have listened to that podcast. Actually, like I recorded that, and I was like, I feel like I should make sure people know it's just me talking. I was like solo explaining it, and yeah. So
Yeah, I
people
got a
listen to it.
surprising amount of feedback rather quickly.
Yeah, they were concerned about you. My mom even was like, "What's wrong? What happened to Lyndon?" And I was like,
And you're like,
"Listen to the podcast." Mom.
some real bad men messed him up.
Yeah, well, listen, your face doesn't look quite as bad as I thought it was going to look.
Very few people even comment when I'm at work.
No.
Some people were like, hey.
Hey, is that a herpes on your lip or what?
I was like, this is a pound of cold sores.
1 full pound. Quarter pounder.
A bag of cold sores.
Oh,
Sounds terrible.
that's disgusting. We have a guest here, Lyndon, named Bryce Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce, where are you from?
I mean,
Where are you
like originally you're asking.
Well, sure.
So I guess I was born in Lethbridge,
Oh,
which is not very exciting, but
it's kind of exciting.
it's down there. Born in Lethbridge, moved to Calgary in my younger years, and then grew up in Okotoks.
Yeah.
So
We have a lot of Okotoks folks on here.
Which is what they're
It
called.
rhymes.
Okotoks.
Yeah, Okotoks folks.
The folks of Okotoks.
Folks of
That's
Okotoks.
Do we?
Smoking.
I've never noticed.
Who else
yes.
was
Mercedes?
Mercedes? Yeah,
She's from Okotoks.
I think so. Aiden.
Oh, yeah.
Aiden is, yeah.
Can't forget Aiden. That episode has a lot of listens, actually. I went back to look at that one again. There's a weird amount of listens on that one, too. People just like feed off of embarrassment, I guess. So you're from Okotoks. So let's talk about. Okay, so you're on here on this podcast. You're a true and faithful. You're a fan of the podcast.
I am. I have been listening quite avidly,
and we thank you.
Yeah, it's been good. I actually, I mean, background info here.
Yeah.
For some reason, I've always admired both of you guys. I don't think I've ever told either of you.
Oh,
but like when I go to Brentwood Ward and Lyndon's teaching, it's literally my favorite. Like so fun. And then in my own ward, me and Troy for some reason followed each other. Don't know why.
Yeah.
We're in the same ward.
Yeah.
And his comment, I mean, well, your comments, just I don't know. I just love it. Like I just feel like there's just like a sense of like honesty and just transparency that's like very refreshing, and I just like that, and that's why I like the podcast. I think it's just
thank you.
It's just nice, you know.
I've been a fan of you for a long time too. You're like, see, there's something about when in YSA though, when like a younger group comes up, and the older group sort of gets older, and there's like a new group of people that come in, where we're all afraid you're going to come kill us and take our food and shelter, and so we fear you. And you're younger, you're hotter. The girls like, they like you more. And where once we were the hot pick of the litter, no longer. Once you and all your crew came in. Shoot. So I was like, these guys are so cool.
They're here to kill me.
They're here to kill me. I better keep my distance as a beta male on the outskirts of the pack. Or what's it called? An alpha beta or a beta alpha?
Satellite alpha.
Satellite alpha.
That's a good one. That's pretty good.
No, but I always thought you were just like a solid dude. So I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Let's like hang out every single week.
Let's do it.
Let's never stop.
Yeah.
I have always appreciated your comments in my lessons.
Thank you.
That's all you got to say?
Well, I'm just, he's saying he really likes my lessons.
Right.
And I've noticed his attendance there.
You have like a little secret notebook. You keep track of whoever's not in your ward who like should be attending your lessons.
Like people that show up and say good things.
Yeah.
I remember them.
You write them down in your little personal book of life.
Yeah, and he's also on the list of people that are trying to kill me.
Yeah.
Metaphorically.
Dualistic.
Yeah, so. It's like there's two lists. It's like, hey, thanks for coming list, and like a watch out, he's going to kill me list. So Bryce is going to try to kill us, and we're all very happy about that. No, but it's good to... And I like your jacket, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's the thing about Bryce and I. You and I both have like the longish. I think our hair is similar lengths right now.
Yeah, it is.
And I just shaved off my goatee, but before that, we were both like longish hair with goatee, tall,
so true,
like lighter haired dudes. And at that conference, like a week or two ago, I think I told you. I don't know if I told you this, Lyndon, but this girl, I like walked up to her and I was like, and we were like just talking. She's like, "Hey, I think I know you. Did I see you on like a post on Facebook?" And there was like a big long explanation, and of course she was talking about Ching's, Humans of YSA Calgary account and your story on there. And I was like, and immediately I was like, no, you're thinking of the other tall, blonde, blue-eyed, long hair, goatee, white man. AKA,
which is half the men in YSA.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Yeah.
Well, not quite.
No, not with that description. There's like, I think it's just you and I, actually.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little more.
We were just talking about the third member of that club, Tyler Grigger, who will never hear this, I'm sure.
Well, he's not in YSA.
No, he's married. He's happy.
Well, we can't just make that assumption.
Do you think I have this theory that like only unhappy people listen to podcasts? Like there's some hole in our heart that like that you're like, I need something.
There's
and-
some hole in your soul that you have to fill with podcasts.
Yeah, so you listen to a podcast. So that's like a good segue, actually. So you were, and we have this dirty little habit now of like stealing Ching's, interesting people. And
I think 3 times makes it a habit.
so yeah,
Twice.
We're
We're just starting to establish a pattern.
It's almost like Ching is. I almost said a derogatory slur just then. Ching is doing all of our legwork for us by going out and finding the people and the stories, and we just sort of like, okay, snatch it up.
It's like scouting, prospecting.
So you and I'm like, I was walking home from work, and I was thinking about like, I was thinking about jokes, like little, I don't know, little riffs, jokes. It's like, should I? Or how riffy, how jokey I should even be about like the subject matter, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't be, but also, so we're talking. So your whole story was about your experiences and your struggles with pornography as a young man, and sort of how that's affected you throughout your life, and so, and I think, and it was very your candor was shocking to me, and it was just like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe someone would do that. And I've had a few friends of mine and like former companions who have done the same thing, and they've sort of like gone on Facebook and sort of said their piece about their struggles with pornography and everything. And I've always been like, man, that's brave. That is extremely, extremely brave. You're basically exposing your fragile, vulnerable underbelly to the world and being like, here it is. Look at, exploit it if you want or not.
That's true. No, I think that was a fear going into it, like of sharing it. Like you have all the thoughts that, all the things that could go wrong in your head. Like,
yeah.
Like literally I remember the Sunday afterwards that like the story was posted. I remember showing up and being like, who's gonna mock me today? You know what I mean? Like you go in there right. Thinking that people are gonna respond maybe a bit differently or a bit like more judgmentally, which I mentioned in the story was something that I was always nervous about, right? Because it's just like let's be honest, like call a spade a spade. It's awkward to talk about in public, right? Any type of anything that refers to like sexual feelings is just a bit awkward, especially for YSA to talk about.
Mormons in general.
It's just so taboo. So I think like I definitely had lots of like a lot of hesitation when I was writing it. So yeah.
How did you? Go ahead, Lyndon.
Well, the hesitation is warranted because I have to confess. Is in my mind, you sort of warmed people up to this. Because my memory is you are the first person I ever remember seeing wear a Porn Kills Love t-shirt. And I thought it was so obnoxious.
I remember a lesson talking about It's true. No, it's true. It's been a long time coming. Like I think it was years ago. So in school I actually did a couple of presentations on the effects of pornography in multiple classes. We did like presentations and I did like a speech on it, and that's actually I bought the shirt for one of my presentations, and yeah, I think it's kind of I've told lots of people outside of the church about my struggle with it in general after learning about the kind of problem that it is, and then I definitely wore the shirt, and I think it all kind of culminated in this final experience of being open and honest in the church as well.
Yeah.
Right? For sure, like kind of like you said, like warming up to that experience. Yeah,
This is your chance, because so you were there. I taught a lesson in elder. You both were there.
Was I there?
Yeah, we must. Yeah,
I taught a lesson on pornography.
Oh no, did I?
Well, no, it was so somber, and no one basically said anything. Like my voice got sore because I was just I was lecturing the whole time, and that's where I expressed that opinion about those T-shirts. So this is your chance. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm a monster.
Wrong.
Well, I remember what you said, and I was like, man, it's kind of true. And there was something else. Actually, we had a lesson this Sunday. I think you were there.
Yeah.
Where we talked about birds. Birds aren't real.
Oh yeah, that was
and all the merchandise that they had, and that actually reminded me of that lesson that you talked about, where they're almost milking money from a real serious issue, right? And like all like the merchandise they sell, if that's what you're referring to, right?
Yeah.
And I thought about that, and I was like, yeah, I guess that's true. And I mean, I think there's a certain level of awareness that it can bring, but at the same time, it definitely is. It's not quite a non-for-profit organization, if you can put it that way, right?
There was a moment where there was like a lot of people who had those T-shirts, "Porn Kills Love" T-shirts, and I remember because I had sort of like the same thought. Lynn and I, we've had like this conversation before, where we were like, we don't like those shirts because it's monetizing, or we interpret it as like the monetization of people's problems, but or it's like exploitative or in some sort of way. But
yeah, and I guess like the like fashionable advocacy,
right,
was
the virtue signaling.
Yeah.
Before,
Which is more like that's just like the
thing.
cost of it. That's the cost,
Right.
I think, of getting the message out. But of course, I'm just, we're just negative Nancy's. I don't like it.
Yeah. and for me, I think it was something that I viewed it as like, because that whole, I think it's like Fight the New Drug. That's like sort of the parent website, right?
Yep.
And so here's what would happen. I would see, my experience with all of that, it was that I would see some lady who and this is bad of me to assume, but I assumedly had probably no experience or no struggle with pornography, posting an article about pornography and how like troublesome it is.
Yep.
And I would always see that and be like, these are people that kind of have no idea what they're, maybe like in an education or an academic way they know, or they've read the article, they're like, look at this. But they don't really know what it's like. And so I sort of felt, here's the thing, like probably like a disclaimer as well. And I guess for myself, I think any man who tells you they've never had any struggle with pornography at all, I think that they're lying to you. I think that's fair to say.
I thought science proved that.
That is like a fact now. Like there's like you'd be hard pressed to find a man in the world at this, like at our age, hasn't
in this
seen,
time.
right?
Do you know what I mean? Like in this digital era where like we have little porn windows in our pockets, at all time. Like everything has the internet and all that. So that's sort of like going into this discussion. And that's a big part of what you did with your sort of coming out with your message, and also the broader way that we deal with this or have dealt with it in our like community and as a church and everything, is that it's been like this secret little thing that you don't tell, but it's like every single man on planet Earth, including all the Mormon ones, I'm certain have had their struggles with it. And so I think it's so much better to just to talk about it and to be open and honest about it. And that's honestly a big part of why I was like, man, it's so brave what you did, actually. But that was also my problem. So my problem was that they're like these people that in my view had no really place to be like, look, just like pointing fingers at I don't know. So maybe it was sort of like, I don't know, guilt feelings for like, for yourself, if you see someone else sort of like pointing, like pornography is really bad, and it is, but I don't know. I just didn't like that, that sort of view of like feeling like someone who doesn't know what they're talking about making a statement about it.
And I think that's one thing. So I used to be a big fan of fighting. I mean, I still think that the cause is great, but
yeah,
I used to be a really big fan of Fighting the Drug, and I'd read like almost all their articles when I became really open about wearing the shirt and everything. And one thing that like you're saying is kind of bugged me is there seem to be a lot of articles that focus on the negative side of, like why it's so unethical and immoral and all these things. And it almost kind of puts a downer on it sometimes. It makes it sound very clinical and like you just it just kind of reminds you that you suck sometimes, right? And,
Right. Yeah.
and that feeling wasn't fun, especially like you're saying when it comes from an outsider who likely is not dealt with it themselves,
yeah.
but then they kind of project the issue onto people that do view it without understanding that, the true, I guess, cause and effect of addiction, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I think that is one of the harder things is when an outsider voices an opinion that, they're just making assumptions, right?
Yeah.
So
that was my. To be honest, I just don't see a lot of those articles anymore for whatever reason. Like I said, I feel like there was a moment where there was just a lot of that and a lot of like the T-shirts and everything, but
the algorithms are just sending you conspiracy articles.
Yeah. Yeah, I get so many. I've seen aliens in real life, and I'm just like, what? And I went so far as to download the app and whatever. You got to pay for it. So I want to like frame it from a reference of like as a missionary. You're a returned missionary. You served a mission. You served like a big full-time,
A big old mission.
big boy pants
full-time
mission. Yeah.
yeah.
In Spain is where you served. And so I'm very fascinated by this particular question, but did you always want to serve a mission? Or what was your experience with that?
That's a good question. I think when I was younger, I always just kind of assumed that I would go on a mission. I think like I always wanted to go, but at the same time I was terrified of going on a mission when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing I was terrified of was getting lost. I have the sense of direction of like a newborn pig. I swear, like
Just directionally.
Like I'm not even kidding. That was my biggest fear. I was like, how am I gonna make it around?
I thought you meant like just I don't want to lose myself. You know?
No,
literally.
There was no metaphors. No, like I'm 100% getting lost, which is funny. And like I always dreamt of going to Utah. Just getting fed and stuff. But
you wanted to.
I wanted to go to Utah.
Really?
Yeah, like I wanted.
They got a nice
just
grid
get fed.
system.
Right? Yeah, you can't get. I mean, you can't
never
really
get
get lost.
You
in
never
there.
get lost.
You get lost, and someone will just take you in. Like it's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I always wanted to go, and
There was never any moments of like fear or like, oh, I don't know about this. What am I doing?
There truly, honestly, wasn't before I left any large hesitation, just because I always felt like I knew I needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, the fear or the hesitation came, and I think you guys have discussed with them on the podcast before, but when you're in the MTC or when you get right into the field and you're like, this is my life for the next years, right? That's, the classic fear that comes in there. And I think my true kind of testing period, like the hero's journey, like you've discussed before, that came when I was already in the field and I was already, kind of stuck in there.
Yeah.
So I guess that allowed me to push through a bit, a bit easier than at home.
So, you did you go to the MTC in Provo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to visa wait I didn't get my visa for Spain. I was going to go to Madrid, but head to Provo instead. And then
How long were you there for?
I was there for the 6 weeks.
Okay.
Spanish.
Learning Spanish. You didn't know Spanish before then?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
In Spain, did they speak like with the TH, like the Barcelona?
Yeah.
So did you have to learn that specific brand of Spanish?
You did. So where I served, like in Barcelona, so general Spanish in Spain, they speak with a TH whenever there is a C or a Z in their language. So like to say the word like gracias in the gringo context, it would be, since it's spelled GRACIAS.
Yeah.
It would be gracias.
Gracias.
Yeah.
Not gracias.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Which lots of people think it is, right? And I think like in the
Gracias.
other parts of Spain, like in southern Spain, they do just say gracia like that.
Oh yeah.
So they kind of get it mixed up.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was unique. If you don't talk with that theta, that's called a theta,
Mm-hmm.
then people judge you. It's kind of the same way that like if you move from England to Canada, you're just a little bit different.
You got that accent.
Yeah. It's like the South Americans speak that way. So you're not a purist. You're not
okay.
You're not a wizard. You're just a muggle.
Yeah.
Harry Potter terms.
To bring us back to Harry Potter, which is how we contextualize everything here.
Remind me, is Barcelona like the nice part of Spain? Like the one that tried to leave Spain?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they are the Quebec of Spain. Literally. Catalonia.
And what is that in Harry Potter terms?
What?
I mean,
you said that Barcelona is the Quebec of Spain. I want to know what Barcelona is in terms of Harry Potter. Is it
what's that one German school?
I don't know.
Probably the one with Victor Crumb.
Victor Crumb, yeah.
That's probably the Barcelona.
That one, okay.
Perfect.
Germans, always the villains. A nation of Slytherins. So you to rewind a little bit. When was sort of like that first exposure that you had to pornography? Or let's start with that.
Yeah. So what actually happened, I remember my mom, she was preparing, like, I didn't explain this super well in the story, but my mom was preparing a Relief Society lesson, I believe it was.
How
ironic. I know.
Ironic.
And it was something about like empowering women or great women in history or something.
Yeah.
I think I Googled like great women or something.
You Googled great.
I literally got on the computer because I think she was stressed and I just wanted to help her as like an 8-year-old son would do.
Right.
And obviously, as an 8-year-old, you don't think that, great women or awesome women.
You don't think twice about what you're Googling.
Yeah, that's not going to yield anything inappropriate as an 8-year-old.
You don't know what's appropriate or not as an 8-year-old,
So, I Googled that and, to this day, like I still remember the exact image. And that's something that's pretty common in people that do have pornography addictions. They state that the first time they saw it, that image never truly leaves.
Yeah.
And I can testify to that. Like it's something that you just remember and will always stick with you. And so that was my very first exposure. Obviously wasn't addicted at that point yet. Just kind of quickly turned away from the screen at that point. But I think that was kind of the seed that never truly left. Mm-hmm. And then when it had the chance to, be watered a bit with other external stresses in life, that's kind of when the addiction started up.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting because I think everyone must, in our, the millennials, I think we all have that experience of that accidental seeing something like that. So when would you say that you were like quote unquote addicted, like before, like your mission, like was that sort of like the thick of it, like sort of before your teen years sort of a thing?
Yeah, I was thinking about that on the way here actually, trying to kind of define addiction, right? Because it's, clinically it's only really acknowledged as an addiction in a few places, right?
Yeah.
But I think when I think of addiction, it's something that, that despite obvious consequences that you don't stop, right? And I think in my teenage years, I would consider myself addicted just due to the quantity that I'd watch it and the fact that I'd use it in the same way that other people would use like alcohol or drugs. Like 100% any time that I felt any type of polarized emotion, whether it was stress or, even being too happy or too anything, like that's just what you'd turn to naturally.
Right.
And the main cause for me was just, stressors within the home for sure. That was a tough part of growing up, but I think in my teenage years, I would classify it as an addiction for sure. I don't know if exactly when I'd pinpoint the time, but I was guessing about 14 to 15 is when I was using, if you want to use that term, using quite a lot. So,
yeah, that's always been a topic of discussion. I got into an argument with the stake president where I was like, technically, it's not an addiction. It's a detrimental habit. Mm-hmm. He's like, Needless to say, I did not become Elder Scorn president of that war.
So explain that. Speak to that a little bit more. Like, we've sort of danced around this, but like, what by definition of like medical technical definition, what is an addiction exactly?
Well, I think it has to do with there's like an outside substance
Mm-hmm.
that's like replacing some sort of process or loop in your body. So like things like nicotine and cocaine, heroin, those all kind of make sense. They come in and they like hijack systems in your body.
Yeah.
That's why like quitting those things, like quitting heroin cold turkey, can kill you.
Right.
Because it's like taking over a process.
And so removing the external chemical your body would be unable, or it's gotten to the point where your body just does not do the same thing it did before because this external thing has taken over.
So it's like you can't stop.
And if your body's just crying out for this thing because it like just needs it.
So I think that's why they had to like kind of redefine pornography, because it's like there's still this external substance, these like images,
right,
that are hijacking
the stimulant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's not like it's hijacking and commandeering like that dopamine feedback loop rather than like replacing it, but it's like hijacking it. But it's still like an external substance.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So then I think I think it's safe to call it an addiction then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually just did I just wrote a paper in my physiology class on pornography addiction, so to speak. So it was a German study they did in 2014 where in the intro they basically talk about how any addiction affects the frontal striatal network. So that includes like the prefrontal cortex and then the striatum in the brain. And it basically talked about how any addiction, you see volume decreases and like structure changes within that part of the brain. And
so what do you mean structure?
So structure is in like the actual like volume or size of that area of the brain.
Okay.
And then structure refers to the gray matter.
Okay.
So the gray matter that's actually there.
So your actual physical brain
changes. And it's
cool.
widely studied in cocaine and heroin and methamphetamine, like all those things that you truly are addicted to in terms of drugs.
Interesting.
And their hypothesis was that pornography hours, so like the pornography hours per week that you view, has the same effect on that part of the brain as those drugs. And the study was like 100% conclusive that the frontal striatal network was affected in the exact same way as drugs. So in terms of addictive property, it functions the same way on that part of the brain with like behavioral issue and depressive and alcoholic like disorders that can be generated from that. Mm-hmm. So super interesting study on that one for sure, kind of proving that like it is the same effect as an addiction. Yeah. Though there's no withdrawal like in drug addiction, right? And that's I think that's the one unique thing is you don't have the shakes after,
right,
a month of sobriety or a week of sobriety, right? It's it's different that way, but
Lyndon, you gave I remember this. I don't know if you actually ended up mentioning it in your lesson that you gave about this, but I think it was something about time away from pornography.
The recovery timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that?
I remember they're like,
those
it's
details?
like a minimum 1 week to even like notice anything. And then they said you don't even begin to break free until like 90 days.
So any lapse before 90 days and it's like you're sort of starting from square one kind of thing?
Basically.
And when you say that, is that sort of like you're talking about the inclination to look at pornography again?
Well, I think,
or just like the things that are in your, because what's really happening when you're in that state of, I don't know, addicted to porn or dependent, or you're prone, or you have a proclivity to keep returning to it?
Well, I think Bryce can give better answers, but I'll throw my little 2 cents in here.
Okay.
I've read a page or two.
Yeah.
Because I know like they'll talk about throughout that like 90-day period to where you're finally like rewiring your brain. You'll go through like a period like 30 days in, your sex drive will just die. And so you'll have like no inclination for anything.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, well, this is bad.
Yeah.
Or is it? It's just, I don't know. It's part of the recovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I pretty much what you said, like the idea of neuroplasticity, that like the brain can change as you go, which is kind of like the saving grace of anyone who's addicted, is that you can change the brain. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I in terms of timeline, super interesting subject. I even like being in addiction, like I can't really attest to a certain like timeline. I think you notice patterns, like you notice certain times of sobriety where you're like, why do I feel urges right now? Like, and you might notice that it's at certain stages along the sobriety date, right?
Yeah.
I haven't really made my own pattern yet. I think that's why they encourage journaling in any type of addiction. You kind of notice your triggers, you see patterns amongst those different relapse dates, and then you say, oh, like, look at me, I usually have this trigger a month and a half in.
Yeah.
And then you know what you should expect based on your brain pattern, your, rewiring of your brain. So, yeah.
So your teen years are sort of the thick of it, and then you go on a mission. I presume you had spoken with a bishop or stake president or someone before.
Yes, to ease your anxiety. Yes.
No, I don't care, but I'm just knowing how, being a teenager myself and serving a mission, I just, like have my own experiences with all of that. I just, for myself, I remember that was like a really awkward and strange, but also like a good conversation to have with a bishop before going on a mission, and like with my stake president as well. I just remember like I told my bishop everything, and then he's just like, all right, you're good to go. And then I get to my stake president level, and he's like, is there anything you want to tell me? And I'm like,
I already shared this.
I'm like, I think I told it all before. but I just like told him again. I was like, I guess I got trouble with this and this. And he's like, good, very good. And anyway, I just but it was like a positive experience for you. I think it gets a lot of flack like today where and sort of recently in the news, they're talking about like bishops talking to kids about, sexual sort of things and how that's not good. I don't know what the right age would be to where that becomes appropriate, if ever. I really don't know. Jury's kind of out for me on that particular topic, because I know it did help me in those times leading up to my mission to get me ready to be a missionary. But at the same time, it is like a strange experience, and it's so I don't know. But that was a positive experience for you.
Yeah, for me actually, that was probably one of the best experiences I've had in terms of kind of sharing something with a priesthood leader. The bishop at the time was my best friend's dad, who I was already friends with. Just saw him at basketball games or volleyball games or whatever.
Yeah.
So it kind of came out really naturally. I remember I went in and he straight up asked me, when's the last time you've watched pornography? And I think it's a
loaded question.
It is a loaded question, right? And it was funny because
in the lobby waiting for this thing.
At the time, I thought it was a really, really smart question to ask a young man, because the assumption that at the time I was 17. Yeah. And at that point, I think that's a fair question to ask.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Even if it was an accidental and they hadn't purposely watched it, they'd answer that. And for me, I remember just kind of, you have the classic breakdown, a bit of shock, right. Telling someone for the first time. I'd never told my parents. So for me, it was a really positive experience in like sharing that, and then him giving me some, some alleviation of my kind of inner pain, thinking that I was some weird kid, right?
Yeah,
just, liked that.
Like
but
a freak.
Yeah, like a total anomaly of nature, right? But no, like it was really good, and that experience was it was a good one.
And then you go on your mission. Did you have any struggles in that regard as a missionary, or did you feel that sort of addicted side of your brain sort of like, I don't know, on your shoulder being like, hey man, why don't we go, get some porn? Bryce, what do you say about, did that ever happen for you? Or
on the mission is interesting, I think. So before I left my mission, I had quite a long time of sobriety.
Yeah.
going into it. And I think that kind of came from the novelty of sharing it for the first time with someone.
Yeah.
That novelty kind of
Kinda
helped me
like
go cold
shocks you,
turkey.
yeah.
Totally, right? And I wouldn't have called myself free from the addiction because I never really learned to cope properly.
Mm-hmm.
Even after that, I just kind of refrained. And on the mission, I mean, once again, was sober for the whole 2 years, but I think that I still didn't, I think the habits that you learn on the mission are the things that help free you from addiction. Just like the rigid schedule, the fact that you're with someone all the time. Anybody with an addiction, unless you're purposely trying to hide something and goes on a mission, I mean, they're going to be sober from that. But I do remember that like there was still residual, thoughts that I'd have to push out of my head, especially in Spain. I mean, there's a lot of nudity in stores, right? I mean, it was hard for sure, but
what do you think is, because you bring up a good point. What is the difference between, would you say, between just having a sexual thought and, I don't know, like an addiction creeping back? Is there a difference? Is it sort of like this separate thing where it's like the addiction is more how we handle the sexual thought, or are they connected, or what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think it really is the way that you handle the thoughts that do come in, because anybody, doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, anybody has, those thoughts that come into their mind.
Right.
Any inappropriate thought. And
sure. I
think it's just the way that you, like the timing that you handle it with, how quick you handle that thought, decide what to do with it. And then, I mean, I think that there is something to think about with the frequency of thoughts as well. Like for sure, someone that is right in an addiction, like a drug addiction, for example, is going to be thinking about, the next shot of heroin that they can get a lot more often than someone that's not addicted, right? So the same way in pornography, I think, is depending where you are along your recovery is, relative to the frequency of thoughts that you do have. And I think that like on the mission, like I rarely had those thoughts. You rarely have time to think of that because you just need the spirit with you all the time, right? That's what you're taught. And
you got someone with you all the time, and you're so busy. I think if you're busy doing the work, then like you really don't have time to, to think about that.
Yeah.
I remember like I used to like, if I had a crush on a girl in the ward, or we were in like this YSA ward, and Lyndon's looking at me like, dude, the hand across the throat thing. Like, shut up, man.
Continue.
I would just like, I would just remember being like, oh man, I wish I could hug a girl like that. Honestly, that was like because truly, you go 2 years without any like physical contact, and you don't understand how meaningful like a touch of a woman can be, and even as simple as a hug. And
you pervert.
You sick freak. You're addicted to hugs, aren't you? Sorry, what were you going to say, Lyndon?
What was I going to say? I think you bring up an interesting point, because it's like you're talking about how do you know when it's sexual thoughts or it's pornography?
Yeah.
Or
Am I addicted, or am I just like a human being?
Well, because it gets to the problem of what is pornography. I think there's a famous U.S. senator who's like, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the like true to the faith definition of it, which I think is very problematic. And anytime I bring it up, people are like, or there's like anything that elicits a sexual thought is pornography. And it's like, well, that's not very helpful. Sounds like,
because like you could,
you're just like, so then if you're like a heterosexual male heading to YSA, it's like, sorry, ladies, you're not human beings. You're all pornography.
You can't slow dance with a girl.
And I got a conversation the other day with someone about the idea of modesty and how, like it's almost objectifying, like, like in what you were saying, right? Like if someone dressed like that, you're just objectifying them as what, like just down to some object that you look at, right? And that's, I don't think that's the way we should think about it. I think that there's healthy, natural thoughts that we have that we can control, right? And then there's the unhealthy pornography, right?
Do you think that I have this thought, and I wonder if the way that we. So I remember being like a 12-year-old boy, 13-year-old boy, and President Hinckley was really big on, he would like slam down in priesthood meeting, general priesthood meeting. I remember a lot of his talks were like slamming the men down about pornography and sort of creating this, I see what he was trying to do and what he was doing. And I could see like the commandment being like, hey, porn is bad. Tell the men. And then he did it in his way. And I think it's good to create a firm stance about pornography. I think that is good. However, I think there became this sort of secondary culture that, as a result of that, maybe unintentional, where shame maybe increased as a result of that. And due to the shame increase became a secrecy increase. And the secrecy is where an addiction to something like pornography can really thrive.
Yeah.
And so do you think that almost the way the demonization, and I don't want to come across like I'm like we should go lighter on pornography, but like, like take it easy. But if it's solely the sort of the crushing guilt that a young man might feel about looking at pornography that would sort of almost fuel that cycle of, like if it were more just like, hey, we all make mistakes, sort of, or if we were more gentle about it, would that be more effective in actually getting to the point of, because the end result is we want people to have a more healthy sexuality or a more healthy view on sexuality, and to not, because obviously looking and being wrapped inside of pornography is not a healthy way to live or to have that sexual part of ourselves, right? And so what we want is to have it expressed in a healthy way. Is the way to get there maybe being more gentle with it? And do you think we've moved in that direction a little bit?
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you guys have heard, there's like a man-to-man night that like the South, like a Stake in the South does.
No.
Okay, so there was a bishop. I grew up kind of like as family friends with this bishop, and he's a doctor down south. Anyways, he messaged me after I put out my story on the Humans of Calgary YSA, and he was like, hey, we're doing this man-to-man night thing where we talk about, issues with men, and I'm sure, it's not mutually exclusive, but, issues with men that they deal with. And he asked if he could share my story, and he talked about, to me on the phone when he asked me permission to share it, he said, like, we're not looking to normalize pornography. We're not looking to, talk about it like it's not a big deal, but I do think it's important to share a story from a normal young man who dealt with normal issues as a kid, who had normal feelings, and this was his result in his life. And I think that was a perfect way to describe it, because sometimes the way that like if we talk about it, kind of the way that I've heard a story of when they're talking about chastity with girls, and they talk about like nailing a hammer in a fence. And it's like, if there was a girl, have you ever heard this analogy?
No, but
please continue.
Okay. So this is, I hope this ties back together. But the same way that like I've heard chastity taught in the church sometimes, where, like let's say a girl has gone through sexual abuse as a child.
Yeah.
And in church, the teacher who unsuspectedly doesn't know that anyone was sexually abused as a child, but they talk about how chastity or lack thereof is like nailing a hammer in a fence. Right. Even if you take that nail out, there's still going to be a big hole. Yeah. I mean, that's not the best visual to teach chastity to someone that, and for me,
people aren't fences, I say.
That's our stance here at Mission Story Pod.
In the same way for me, I think that the way that I came across pornography and the way that it was used for me as a young child, as, or young teenagers as a coping mechanism, and hearing, how it's so evil and literally it's like the plague, sometimes makes you feel like you might be sick with the plague. right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, like I do understand that it's unhealthy, but I think that maybe sharing that it's a bit more, it's a bit, it's more common
Yeah.
than, people sometimes make it out to be is a good thing. And that's why I really wanted to share my story so that, I'm sure that there are many more guys in YSA that have an issue with it that don't talk about it and, just are too scared or just don't want to really, maybe don't even think they have a problem with it, right?
I'd go as far as to say all of them.
Yeah.
if not 95%.
Agreed, yeah.
I remember the story this one guy told me. My friend who's not a Mormon, he grew up, or he used to work at Dairy Queen with this one guy, and who was a Mormon. This other guy was a Mormon, and my friend would tell me
Latter-day Saint.
a Latter-day Saint. Excuse me.
There we go.
We've redacted the word Mormon from 180
I'll
years
just
of
correct
history.
you. Just once an episode, I'll correct you.
Thank you, Lyndon. Much appreciated. And he said that this guy had never masturbated once in his life, never looked at pornography. And I'm like, and honestly, that's the only instance I can think of someone who would claim such a claim as that. Other than that, yeah, I think I don't know. I think you're so right in that we really do need to get to a place where it's not the plague. It can plague you, but it's not the plague, and it's something that first of all, you're all going to struggle with it. Just it's a given. It's a fact. You're horny teenagers, and this is a really easy way to channel that. But what we're saying is that it's not a good way.
Yeah.
And so it's something that you got to work on getting away from it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think that's the direction. 'Cause you're right. It's the shame. It's the secrecy. It's the embarrassment. That's not good. I think that's where it becomes the biggest problem of all. I think the moment, with anything, if you feel really bad about it, or if you're really self-conscious about it, if you feel really fat in your clothing, that's all you're going to think about is how fat you look and everything, right? The moment you sort of let go of that, you're freed, or anything you're self-conscious of. The moment you stop really caring or thinking about it, you're freed from it. And that's always sort of been my thought with pornography too, and with the fight, the new drug. I see what they're doing. I get it, and I think it's good. But if you keep talking about pink elephants, you're thinking about pink elephants. I don't know. I for myself and my own struggles, I was successful when I had sort of my mind and my habits and activities had moved on to a different place, and I had forgotten about it, and I was just doing other stuff. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, because I think human sexuality is a very nuanced thing, and it's pornography is just one piece of that great nuance,
Right.
and even that has its nuance.
Yeah.
So you're talking about what direction are they going to go in? You're talking general conference addresses at priesthood, where they're trying to give out this stern warning to teachers and deacons who haven't gotten into it yet. So they're just it'll ruin your brain. You'll never forget. You'll be tainted and dirty forever.
Yeah.
So puts the fear of it in them.
Yeah.
But for the 35-year-old father of 3 who's in it,
Yeah.
that message doesn't help.
Yep.
No.
So
Right.
It's so you almost have to have a dozen different messages for everyone.
That's
And
interesting.
so that's the huge struggle.
Totally.
So it's you can't just roll out a blanket solution to everyone.
That is sort of the dualistic message sometimes, right? Where it's just sinning is bad and it's the worst and it's awful and it will ruin your life. Also, if you're sinning, you're fine. Everything's going to be good, repentance, all that.
They're just
You're right.
you can just be the atonement will take care of it all.
Yeah.
And you're I don't know what that means. Because I can even go into, I've already had because you've talked about sexual shame versus sexual guilt. And, you can always talk about, it's the strength of youth is great for youth. Is it tailored very well to YSA? I disagree. But it's kind of like we have these blanket solutions, and I think it's a little more nuanced, and it's really hard to kind of...
Well, what's the...
Because part of it is like policing sexuality versus like guiding people in sexuality.
Right.
So it's like, how far do you want to go in regards to both of those? I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't have solutions. You just raise questions.
Yeah. Let's see. I got some questions
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
for Bryce.
Let's hear him.
Back onto the whole community against porn. What do you think about the old subreddit NoFap?
Oh, NoFap. Oh, man.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, no, I have. I actually think that I downloaded it a little while ago to see what it was all about. I don't know a ton about it though. I think from what I had read, like the one day that I got it, it's just kind of like a community of people that share their dates that are if they're going to, if they're having urges that they can like reach out to someone on the site. And it was generally pretty positive. Actually, I was surprised the positivity and like kind of camaraderie amongst that community, even though it was online, because normally online is just so toxic.
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised, but I think that, quite honestly, I think that at least in my experience, if I needed to reach out to someone because I was feeling an urge to relapse, I wouldn't want to be on the internet on my phone trying to reach out to someone. I'd want to be putting away the phone and going to someone in real life. So I think it's a good option for those who either A, haven't told anyone and don't have a trusted person to talk to, or B, maybe just, same thing, just don't have a good support network, right? So it is a good thing, I think, for people that kind of want to keep it more anonymous at that point. And, yeah, pleasantly positive, I'd say.
Yeah,
PP.
And I think the your brain on porn guy, I think his like control group is just like the no fappers who have like, because he's like, you can't find a control group for people who like haven't seen porn or aren't addicted. So his only control group has been from that community of people who have like recovered long enough.
Interesting.
So I was like, so it's kind of interesting that it's like they're like very proud that they're like a secular community against pornography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're like, our membership is 70% atheist.
That's something that like I've always found very interesting, is that the effect of pornography and masturbation seems almost universal. I mean, like there's some people who are basically unaffected, that they just don't care. I don't know. But for a lot of my non-Mormon friends, they like my one friend, he's like, I'm gonna try to just like to not do it, just to not look at porn or masturbate or anything. I just he said it made him like depressed, and that he went like some time without having done it, and then he did it, and then he was just like really depressed the morning after. And I don't know what it is. There's something to this that is universal, like it that goes outside of just our religious framework of, because the argument could be made that like, well, you just feel guilty because you grew up religious thinking that it was wrong, and then but no, it turns out that like a lot of people who have no religion at all also feel just sort of shameful and bad after having done it. I mean, like there's hours and hours of comedy that's been done about this very subject of like, you can't leave the house for, a little while after you don't want to talk to people. I just find that very interesting, that idea that it's more than it's outside of any particular religious sect.
Yeah, I think because I brought it up. I was like teaching the lesson, and it's like I bring up fight the new drug so I could like roast them. And then I bring up like your brain on porn and no fap, and it's like talks by the general authorities, because it's almost like when you bring like the secular point of view into it, for some reason it like can reach more people, or like some people will just be like, oh, this is just the prophet saying that thing again. I'll ignore it.
Yeah.
But suddenly they're like, scientists say this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything more to be said about that, but
Bryce, can you maybe like take us from like after your mission till now, or actually, because didn't you say you had like kind of a funny, cool, interesting mission story you wanted to?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But like, it's just like, this is such a weird like. So anyway, porn. What's a wacky story on your mission? You know,
this is mission stories.
Yeah, and there's not really a good segue.
They need like a break.
yeah, it's almost like we should like have a little break and then like come back to it.
Give us a zany mission story. Then we'll talk about porn some more.
Well, maybe let's wrap up porn.
Well, I do have one. I have like a scathing question.
All right.
This is the one that popped up to me the most when I read your post.
Okay.
Is you talk about your girlfriend. And
Here we go.
And I know you've been
a whole can of worms.
You've been coming to let's wrap up porn with this. And it's like I see you coming to Brentwood for a long time. And then you talk about your girlfriend and you talk about like marriage, or maybe I feel like you mentioned something about holding off on marriage.
Mm-hmm. So what about that?
Why did that make the post?
Okay, so I think that's like an interest. Like that is a whole story in itself that could be shared. Like I think that there's, you know, just like in a court case, there's one side to there's two sides to every story.
Right.
And as much as I struggle with it and deal with it and the effects that it has on me, I think that there is a huge psychological side for the significant other, just like betrayal trauma, right?
Right.
And, you know, we've talked about it a whole lot, and I won't go into too much detail, but the idea that it's, you know, seeing or purposely seeking out, you know, images on a screen of other women when you're supposed to be exclusively interested in your significant other, right? It is something that, from her perspective is something that obviously is, it's similar to cheating, right?
Yeah.
And it took me a little while to fully understand that, just because I'm very, self-centered, and I just think of, well, like, all this trauma that I've been through and all these stresses, that's the only reason. But, when I put myself in her shoes and think about it, it isn't fair to be having thoughts about other women while claiming to be fully invested and solely interested in someone else, right? So we've had a lot of deep talks about it, and I've seen lots of, like, I go to the support groups, and there's lots of people that are dealing with it in marriage, and I just see the difference of like the hurt that it can cause while being married and not having dealt with it beforehand or fully disclosed the issue beforehand. And I personally, I just want to try to deal with it as much as I can before marriage, and go into marriage having a realistic, healthy expectation of myself. We've discussed that, it does not mean that you're going to be perfect for the rest of your life, but knowing that you can handle it together and that I have the tools to stay in recovery, I think is a really important idea going into marriage, right? And I think, it's hard. Like we've wanted to get married for quite a while. I've been going to Brentwood for years, right? And so it is hard, and I think it's been, that's a whole other factor that goes into it, but it definitely is tough to hold off, but it's important.
Yeah. I had like something else I wanted to ask you. What was it? It was something about, did I say all my points that I wanted to make or ask you?
Just a reminder, what are you doing right now? You're in school?
Yeah, school right now. So I'm in my 4th year of the science program at Mount Royal. So I just do my pre-med requisites. Yeah.
You accepted into med school?
Not yet. So I haven't applied quite yet to med school. I'll probably apply next year.
What's your MCAT score?
Non-disclosed. We're just bleep it out. Just cut.
What's your?
I took it once. I literally studied for about 7 hours.
Oh.
I got a 495, which is like 30th percentile, but I didn't study, so it's you need at least like a 505 to get into a decent school. So
Of course.
we got some work to do.
Sorry, do you want me to keep that in or what?
Bleep it out.
Okay.
Just bleep it right out.
You know what? If any
Just
med
making work for
school
me, but okay.
if any med schools are listening to this, he scored a 605.
Exactly.
890.
It is possible.
Harvard Medical,
You got 8.
call us up.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll get you in contact with them.
You got 890? Whoa. I gotta make it. Hold on. 1 second.
Usually
Average.
don't
All right,
tell.
we're
Like I usually don't
back.
tell people. Oh, whoops. Hey.
I was going back to delete that, but apparently it doesn't matter. Sorry. So it happened again. We were all like talking, and then it was like, it was like silent.
You were thinking of your question.
I
was getting some of his current life status down.
Right.
The stuff we should have done an hour ago.
Yeah. I think maybe Bryce, if you want to like come back like another time and tell like specifically about your mission, that would be like better than to just try to sandwich it all into this topic. But I guess my questions were just about I don't know. This maybe is something that I did want to ask you. Someone who is Oh, you know what I got to do? I got to tell you what my question at the beginning was that I like never.
I thought we already did that
Gosh,
one.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that one. That one was, do you feel that do you think your mission equipped you to be, do you think you benefited? What was like the benefit of your mission? Or do you feel like was there some setbacks to going on a mission? Like, what are the two sides of that for you? And maybe even in a context of struggles with pornography and the like.
Mm-hmm. So I think, starting with the positives, I think that it definitely equipped you with the right tools, to live a life free from pornography. I think that the idea of companionship is a huge thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in marriage, I think that being with someone and being responsible to take care of someone and to love someone the way you love a companion is a huge way to learn to deal with things like that. I think the primary answers of like scripture study, daily prayer, good habits, filling your time with good things. Like those are the simple things that lead to a porn-free life, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things that when you get home are lacking, right? Like the lack of structure, the 6-hour Netflix binges that you go on, or 12. Let's be honest, 12 hour, 6 hours was minimizing that, right? Like
12.
Like I think that when we get home, we get a bit lazy and we forget the things we learn on our mission that cause so much success.
Yeah. And
I think I know the tools, and I think that the mission does equip that. One thing though that on my mission I really kind of have an issue with, and I think that they're starting to fix this, is technology. I think that you do not learn how to properly use technology on your mission, and to manage it. Like for me, we didn't have any phones. Like we had the classic brick flip phones, right? And having no phone in your hand for 2 years, to having every possibility at the click of a button.
Mm-hmm.
The day you get released for me was a huge shock, and that was the time that I realized that maybe I hadn't fully recovered from I guess the pornography tying pornography to cellular addiction. I think that it's smart that the missionaries today are using phones the way they should be used.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something I wish that I had on my mission.
That's an interesting point. I don't know if this was the question I had before, but it is something that I'm interested in, this idea of sort of slowly being able to deal with whatever the triggers are. Do you know what I mean? Like, so not necessarily removing yourself from those triggers or from those things that like caused the cascading road down to actually looking at pornography, but being able to have a phone, like you said, and being able to sort of almost be desensitized to it to the point where it's not a problem. Like you can have a computer, you can have a phone, you can have internet access, and you're not going to struggle with that. I think it's I think that's best case scenario. I think obviously you got to do what you got to do in whatever scenario that you're in. But maybe my final question, Lyndon, if you have any, feel free to chime in. But my final question would be for someone who is a return missionary, someone in a marriage or in a relationship who feels that they're struggling with pornography, even in the slightest or even in the heaviest sense. A, what would you say to them? Yeah, general thoughts, what would you say to them? And then B, what would you suggest in terms of remedy?
Okay. So in a relationship, you're saying, hey?
Or in single.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I mean,
Handle every
way.
scenario.
Yeah.
Or
either way.
Or if it's complicated, you've been on a few dates, but like you're not sure.
Right.
All the
Okay.
scenarios.
So I think so we've kind of brushed over this, but I think that honesty and openness is like the biggest way to kill the issue of pornography. It's like pouring salt on a slug. Like shedding light on your addiction is probably the biggest way to just get rid of the shame. That was good imagery, am I right?
It was
Salt on a
sad
slug.
imagery. It was sad. You've made pornography to be this cute little slug.
And he's like, no, Bryce, no.
Don't kill me. I'm just a slug.
Please tell me you guys have done that before, though.
No.
Am I the only one
I'm
that's
not
poured
we're not
salt on it?
sick
I am a
weirdos.
savage. That is savage.
Kill slugs. Slug killer.
You're like, you know what'll ruin this slug's day? A cup of salt.
A little bit of NaCl.
What I was gonna say, like, what's the process? It's not anthropomorphize. It's like taking pornography, because that is people, and then anthropomorphizing it into a slug, which is cute. What's it that
Reverse anthro.
Morphism.
just something where you put a smiley face on it and make it. Anyways, so
Slugs are gross.
what do we
so
not
I
like?
guess-
Cockroaches? I don't know.
Yeah.
A disease.
Yeah. We can
Virus.
substitute for cockroaches.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think
Staphylococcus.
Yeah.
Staphylococcus.
What's that?
That is a bacteria.
That's a
That is a
bacteria.
berry-shaped bacteria.
A berry-shaped bacteria.
Yeah.
Gram.
Now you're making
Gram negative, am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
you're making that seem nice. It's shaped like a berry. Do you guys like berries? Yes.
But
So anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
Anyways, yeah. So I think first off, the biggest thing is just honesty. Like for sure, I think that especially if you're in a relationship, I think that being open with whoever you're with, whether you're married or not. I mean, if you've been dating for two dates, probably don't just throw that on them. I mean, I think
when do you tell
there's a
them?
time and a
Yeah.
place, right? I think that when you start seriously thinking about things with them, either A, deal with it right now, just go talk to someone, go to 12-step if you really think that you need that. And if you don't think you're addicted, go talk to your bishop, go online and, research things and see, just at this point, it's kind of a self-diagnosis and it's not dangerous to diagnose yourself like that. But I think, it's just being open, being honest, talking to someone, and then having someone that is willing to support you through it. So find another guy friend that, that would understand. And then if you're ever struggling one day or one night, you just give them a call. Ask them to go for a drive. I just think that being open and having someone that will support you and not shame you is like the most important thing.
Yeah.
Right. And whether that can be your partner, which can be hard, but if you do have a partner that's willing to do that, that's, even better.
Yeah.
But.
That's awesome. That's all my porn questions, Lyndon. Do you have any other?
No more questions.
Now you did do a lot of research for this particular episode. I know you did. That was my joke. I was going to make that joke, but then I was like, should I make it? You know what I mean?
Like I watched all the porn. To
Yeah, you
research
watched
this.
all the porn.
Like I thought I was like misinformed. I thought we were going to like be discussing all the different kinds.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wouldn't that be funny?
Funny joke.
Inappropriate, Troy.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Give your head a shake.
Shake. Bryce, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sorry for that horribly poor taste joke at the end there.
Anytime.
you're a wonderful guest. It's like a dance. It's like a very elegant dance having you on the podcast. You're a good, dance partner with the three of us. It feels good. So, and you're a good man, and we respect and love you. And honestly, mad respect for stepping out on this particular subject. I think it is. It's a subject that affects a lot of us. I think probably all of us. And so it's great that you did that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lyndon.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's
Final
see.
thoughts. What do you think?
I regret judging you for wearing that T-shirt.
I do too. I feel so bad now.
So I regret that. And I mean, just to our listeners, if you see any slugs, and if you pour salt on them,
Just try it.
no judgment here. I would all just ask that you do it true and faithfully.
Bye-bye.